All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am your Ice Dragon, RayronVR. And today we've got probably the most important news article that we've got of the year. And I would arguably say probably one of the most important for model railroading as a whole. So just recently, the NMRA decided to do a rebrand that was announced at TrainFest in Milwaukee. And today we're just going to go over every little detail that we could potentially look at when it comes to this rebranding. Now, the main reason why I kind of titled this the most important thing to read is because something very interesting actually came out from this rebranding. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Okay, so this is the all the links and all the source documents will be listed in the description box below. So when it comes to the rebranding, these all the promotional materials for the NMRA and kind of going forward. So again, this was kind of the timeline. It started in TrainFest in Milwaukee is when they formally announced it, and the reason why I didn't make a video initially is because I needed a lot of days of sleep on this and how I actually wanted to report on this rebranding. Keep in mind, guys, I'm a human being. I have my biases. For me personally, I don't like the rebranding because of where the logo has come before, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But I kind of understand why they're doing it from a corporate business perspective, but there's a lot to that. It is a very loaded statement. But with that, there are two pieces of documents that I think we need to look into. Before we look into these documents, though, I just want to give you guys some background when it comes to this logo. So this is the brand new logo, the NMRA with the dots here. So obviously, this is kind of a big spin-off of the CSX. The CSX has these little wheel designs or dots that represent the wheels of a boxcar, essentially. And so that's where they kind of got this representation. And where they came from was this old design. This is the NMRA dot organization with the wheel design that they went to. Now, if you want my humble opinion, I think there was a missed opportunity to go back to the roots of the NMRA. And personally, this is just gorgeous. I think this is the best out of all of the logos that I've seen from the NMRA. I think it's straight up and to the point. It's really uh, grassrooted to what model railroading is about. It's about the couplers, about the wheels, and it's very distinctive. When you see these type of things, you can easily identify that, oh, this is a train. This is, railroading in a sense. But granted, this logo does need a little bit of love, a little bit of color, a little bit of updating for the present day. But I think it was just a missed opportunity to really go back to the roots of the NMRA. So with that, let's go to the first document, which is the graphic standards of the NMRA. So basically, this entire document is an attempt to standardize, basically, as you can see here, the identity of the NMRA. So again, this is the inspiration of the design that is based off of a freight car. So that way you can identify it as, hey, it's gonna be a train. Very simplistic, to the point. And again, this is where my bias is going to come into play. I think it's boring. I think it's an attempt to try to satisfy everyone that's in the hobby, which I appreciate. But at the end of the day, when you try to please everyone, you get this kind of very simple logo. Now, from a business standpoint, yeah, it is simple. It is straight to the point. It expresses what it is. But at the end of the day, this was mostly focused towards getting the younger audience into the NMRA. And to be honest, everything that I've seen on Facebook, everything I've seen from Discord, it's really a 50-50 split. You see some individuals say, yeah, it is simplistic, it is very to the point, and there's no controversy around it. My opinion, I think it's safe. It is the super safest modern day logo you can get when it comes from, again, a business corporate perspective. So the different colors here is an attempt to help all of those who are also colorblind, from my understanding, from what Gordy said from the latest NMRA X video. Again, I'll link that down below. So that's why with these different offshoot of colors that we've got here, again, this is the text form, again, a spinoff of those particular rail car or whatever you want to the call here. But anyways, this is the text. This is the design. This is what the branding is not going to do. Again, this is a very corporate document. That's the biggest thing that I'm going to emphasize when it comes to this rebrand. Is it's very corporate. It's very business focused. Again, this is how you put it on a particular piece of paper and so forth, and so forth. Just a measuring tool of where to locate the logos. So this is how the new regions are going to look. And as you can see, there's a big effort to just standardize all of the logos. So you can see a lot of the color designs from the regions, from the divisions. They are now going to this monochromic type of style when it comes to logo in an attempt to try to standardize everything. Again, I cannot emphasize enough. This is a very corporate business move to make. And you can see kind of how everything then gets tied together. And this, again, this is, I'm trying to be as very honest and humble as I can about this. It is very clip art type of style. Again, it is safe. It is very corporate when it comes to this. So you can see how they're trying to identify, how to try to unify all of these designs. And again, my biases are going to come out in this video. I do apologize, guys, but I am human. When it comes to the regions, you can see that, again, it's very simplistic. It's very corporate. And they're trying to eliminate the confusion of all of these different styles of logos and brandings. And I'm going to probably make a separate video on this, on how the art is conforming to standards, because I think that is a very important thing when it comes to our hobby, that our hobby is very sandbox and has a very artistic style of just how we express ourselves in this hobby. And again, this is being transformed into a very corporate standard when it comes to just the presentation of the NMRA. So again, you can see how the new styles are going to have to conform to these particular standards that the NMRA is setting out. You can see how the divisions have to go monochromic, and same thing with the logos as well. So again, this is all the typography. And don't get me wrong, I actually really respect this document because, again, I'm studying business. And again, from a business standpoint, this is actually brilliant because you get to see exactly the type of font. Me being a little bit on the graphics design type of hobby as well, I appreciate this because then I know exactly what I need to set my logos to if I want to incorporate like a division in NMRA. This is actually very helpful that we have all these type of colors, all the hex. I nerd over this type of stuff. So I think this is very useful. Again, this is the overall conclusion of those type of colors, how it looks. It is very well thought out when it comes to this kit. Now, here's some of the other expressions of the NMRA. Again, it is, when it comes to this branding, it is safe. It is very safe. It is very simple, to the point from a perspective. Here's all of the merch. Here's all of the stickers and so forth. Here's the calendar. Again, it's simple and it's safe. Here is the NMRA magazine. Yeah, again, when it comes to the expression of art, there's a lot to say to this, and I think I'm going to save it for my next video. This is how the MMRs are going to be presented in their articles. And again, this is how just trade shows, wall, and everything is going to work. File formats. So overall, from a business corporate perspective, that makes sense. It's nice to have all of these typographies. It's nice to have the little details of the artwork. And I would say that for what the board members and for the focus groups and for those that participate in this, I think it met the objective from a business corporate lens. So let's also continue to dig a little bit more into this. So on the next document that I kind of want to showcase is this one. So this, I think, between the typography of the NMRA logo and this FOTA document, this I think was a combination of $60,000. Now that may seem a lot until I read this document. The 60,000 does make sense again from a business perspective. Originally, I will admit that I was blasting the NMRA for that dollar amount until I read this document. So I do take back my statement that the 60K probably wasn't worth the money. Now, granted, that money could have been spent on different things like the division and other aspects of the NMRA, but again, the powers to be, those that were voted in onto the board, decided to spend that money on this. And this document is actually really important because before we always wanted to capture the state of the hobby. And before, the state of the hobby was really focused on sales from the businesses, from trade shows to see how many people were in attendance. And we really couldn't capture the just from a business perspective what the state of the hobby was going to be objectively because we can only see the hobby and the state of the hobby from a subjective point of view. And this document, I think, is probably the first time that I've ever seen an objective attempt to answer the question of what exactly is the state of the hobby. Now, granted, this is focused more on the NMRA, but the more I read through this, like this is actually a very, very, very important document to read because it just shows where the hobby stands. It gives some testimonials from a different range of backgrounds, and then it goes into several case studies in other organizations to see how they're doing. And that's kind of this document. Now, this document is 298 pages. Not all of them you have to read. There's a lot of photos, a lot of evidence that goes into how this rebranding should happen for the NMRA. And I think this is the core of what the money was spent on. And it's actually a very, very important document. And this is the document that you guys really, if you are passionate about model railroading, this document is a must read because it just tells so much about what is going on in the hobby. All right, so this was done by FODA. I believe this is a marketing brand that helps other companies actually address how to rebrand and how to shape for the current marketplace. They are located in Austin, Texas, and so there was a lot of people that were looked into this. You can see some of the people here that were involved in this. And so as we go through, there's a lot of just speakers that express a Q&A style of conversation. So this photo company asks several questions, and everyone that was answered gives their answers. And to be quite frank, guys, this is also I cannot stress enough. This is an important read. It took me about 4 days to go through it all and to dissect it, to sleep on it, and to make this video based off of this particular document. So this document just has so much information that is so beneficial to us. Again, I'll let you guys comb through it, but I'm going to try to give you guys the 30,000 feet view of what's going on in this document. And so, again, they interview a lot of people into why the hobby is dying, what some of the perspective in the NMRA, how they think the hobby is doing, how do you want the rebranding to be perceived. There's so much good information in here. And there's a couple of answers in here that kind of make me sad. I know, again, this is from a business perspective. And so I'll let you guys read because I don't want this video to sway you one way or the other about the rebranding. I just want you guys to be informed. And I'm trying to keep this video is by far the most hardest for me to keep my biases out. But the big thing about this hobby is that I want you guys to stay informed. That's it. And then you guys can decide where you want to get your information from, how you want to spend your money, and essentially who do you want to associate with in this hobby. The NMRA is a tool to help improve your modeling capabilities. And so I'm trying to help you guys inform, like, is this rebranding going to be good for you? Is joining the NMRA good for you? I think this, if you're deciding on whether to do your membership, read this document, read the rebranding stuff. I think it's very critical because it clearly states where the NMRA is going in the future. Okay, so with that, talk about people's careers in the hobby, how they got into the hobby. And so they have several speakers on it. And so, again, some general terms that came out from this particular document. CEO of a manufacturer. This, from what I could tell, Scale Trains was interviewed on this. I think Sean made a statement on it. Yeah, Sean Wilson, president of Scale Trains, was a part of this. There was a podcaster. I could not identify who this podcaster was, but you can see right there, it actually is from AML. This is from Lionel Strang from AML, which I am kind of surprised that they interviewed him, but neither here nor there. Editor of a publication, the NMRA divisional presidents. We got an author and modeler, some more modelers. Got an association president, director at large of a manufacturer, editor of publications, executive director of a model railroad museum. That's Michelle Kempema of the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. Because, I mean, when you read it, you can see division in Colorado. So, yeah, that's Michelle Kempema. Director of the NMRA. Let's see, we got former NMRA board member. We've got a modeler. Here's a Lionel Strang from A Modeler's Life that gives the testimony as well. And so those were all the testimonies. Those I know I don't know about this document is it just those that they interviewed. Now there were apparently focus groups, which I didn't see any advertisement to be part of this focus group. I'll tell you one thing, I wish I could have been part of this process. I wish I could have done it. I wish there was some sort of email saying that, hey, if you want to be a part of this, we're going to select a few candidates to do this. But from what I could tell from all of the sources, from all the reading I'm done on social media, on Facebook page, Discord, I didn't see anything that advertised that this was going to be open to the general membership of the NMRA, which I understand there's like 30,000 members, but the fact that that's a great sample size too, to even do just a quick survey on it, I don't know. That's neither here nor there. It's a business decision of the way they did it. So they go through all the logos. Here's that legacy mark that looks so beautiful. I really, really like this old logo. Again, it was an attempt. I wish they could have gone to the old logo, but again, they studied the colors that they used. They looked at all of these beautiful logos from all the regions. And you can just see all of them that's here. The colors that they used. And so, yeah, they go through the color wheel to look at it all. So there's all the divisions as well. So, again, all of this beautiful artwork that truly showcases, again, all of these logos represent the beauty of the sandbox that model railroading is. And so it was nice to see that all these beautiful logos. This is the first time I've ever seen all these logos in one place. And we know this one, Twin Cities Division. That's probably the most iconic. One of the most iconic ones. The NER being another iconic. But anyways, so we're going to go through. They talk about all the regions, the sections, the divisions. They talk about the website going through. Again, I'm kind of speeding through this because I don't want this to be an hour-long video. I could easily, I'm probably end up going to do a video essay on this, but I just want to get you guys just a quick snapshot of this document. Let's see here. So we've got, so this is an important one too, is the vision of where the NMRA wants to go. And you can see the graphs of how the memberships have been declining, annual trends. You can see the mission, different missions of the NMRA, the visions, kind of the think tank of where things should go for the NMRA. Again, this is all heavily business oriented. Some of the values, the strategies. All this is good. For me, I am big into strategies, especially business strategies, and I ate this up. It's like, this is great. This is the first time I've ever seen the NMRA try to do anything like this, at least publicly. These actions and how they're organized and kind of the way into the future when it comes to the NMRA. Some more organizational charts, some statements of work and the scope. Again, more vision guided. And so they kind of looked at other organizations to see how the NMRA can improve. So they looked at this NER style guide when it comes to everything. Positioning, again, for the next 75 years. More branding definitions, how they're going to do everything with their products. So that's kind of the draft. More of the business, straight to the point, paperwork type of things. Create a brief, and I will admit some of this is kind of dry, but again, it is important to understand because the NMRA, for all intents and purposes, is a significant figure face of the model railroading hobby. And I think it's important to understand where they're going in the future. So now we start going into the history of model railroading. This I geeked out over because there's a lot of things that I didn't know about. Talks about timelines of scales, talks about how competitors came to be, how the scales came to be. Again, another great, fascinating read. If you really want to dive into what model railroading is, and not only that, how the business side of things sees model railroading. Because again, this photo company is a business entity. So you can see how the outside business world views model railroading. And I've never seen a document like this in my life. And that's why I think it is the most important thing to read, because we can then gauge where this hobby is and how other businesses perceive us. If you're a business owner, this is a must read. Absolutely a must read. Again, it talks about kind of the future, how 3D printing, laser cutting, and so forth is important. Again, more history of the model railroading, how the market is when it comes to railroading. Again, this is kind of, if you want to talk about stereotypes, this company kind of looked into kind of the market of that. So again, something to look into when it comes to this. More marketing of the model railroading. They looked at train shows. They looked at the impact of COVID-19. They look at the trends. Let's see, we'll continue on here with the market. We'll get past this here. They looked at the hobby and toy stores in the US. So they looked at IBIS World to see how the market is doing as a whole. Now, again, this graph here is only, they lump the hobbies and toys together. I would argue it's independent, which they kind of do later on here. So here's kind of the independency of the hobby, crafts, and toys. Again, another great read to look into. And so then now they look at all of the manufacturers when it comes to the hobby. There's our lovely mini prints. There's Digitrax. There's, rest in peace, Fox Valley, and so forth. NCE, Microtrain. So they did a deep dive into what makes the hobby tick, and especially when they look at all of these logos, which is pretty cool to see. And all the subsidiary brands, they look at the color palettes again. And then they just took a lot of pieces of evidence of, okay, this is what a train show looks like. And then they give more pictures of, okay, this is what cars look like. This is what some of the clubs logos look like. This is how people sell stuff. Again, more pictures, more displays, the people involved in the shows. So again, they're just trying to grab just evidence of what the hobby is really about. And again, I think it's pretty cool that home layouts was also considered. So they took some pictures of that. And then they start going into some old railroading just documents here, which is pretty cool. They look at timetables. So again, a lot of cool things actually in this document. And I'm going to keep going through here. Let's see. So again, just going through some old things here. Again, they're just trying to get samples of what railroading is. Let's see. Okay, so I kind of went a little too far here. Okay, so they've got some Boy Scouts. So then they start also looking past model railroading, and they look at other volunteer organizations. So we got the Boy Scouts of America that's kind of sampled here. We'll keep going here. Again, looking at the industry. Now, there's some weird things here. So I understand this is kind of a derivative of the hobby itself. So they go into cameras, which makes sense because of the whole rail fanning perspective. We got some gloves, which I don't quite understand. And then they took the MIB neuralizer. I don't quite understand how that fits into anything when it comes to NMRA. I was confused when I saw this. And then we go into some other things that I'm not sure about. Nissan, I don't know. I'm at a loss of some of this other stuff here. They took batteries and looked at their icons. That was like Mercedes logos there. Yamaha. So yeah, it's interesting. So they go into the vintage NMRA, and again, that classic NMRA logo, it just needed a little bit of TLC and love to bring it into the modern era. And I think that's really all we needed. But again, that's one man's biased opinion. We looked at the some of the old patches of the NMRA. Okay, and then we're going to keep going past there. We got some more patches of this railroads. Again, just a wonderful collection of just memorabilia when it comes to the NMRA. When it comes to, they looked at vintage railroads signs, and it is a great looking. Actually love this document to a degree because it just captures in one document what model railroading really is. So we looked at track patterns and just a variety of things, which is awesome. They took the layouts into consideration, and so there was a well breadth of research that went into this, which makes sense why. And to be honest, again, I'm gonna put my business hat on. This is easily a six-figure report that the NMRA did get a good deal when it comes to the 60K. But again, it's debatable if that 60K should have went to this or just kept the old logo or go back to the original logo. Again, that's a debate for a whole nother day. Okay, so there is some interesting things here. So message analysis. I didn't even realize this was a thing. There's something called lexical density, meaning the density of a text tries to measure the proportion of content, words over total words. Text with a lower density are more easily understood. So there's a science to, I'm trying to describe the best I can. How simplistic is when it comes to a logo and when it comes to the message. So they kind of did the science behind that. Again, you guys can go read into this. And then it talked about how the visions of the NMRA, it goes into fading, which represents that is the average of when a reader no longer is interested in what they're reading. So you can kind of see some of the case studies they use. So they use the NMRA for one, Girl Scouts, the BSA, and so forth. So again, interesting statistics when it comes to all of this stuff. Okay, so now when it comes to rebranding, when it comes to the mission and vision, this photo document went to several case studies, and it's interesting. Let's go into it. So the first one they used was the rebranding of the Girl Scouts. So again, I'm not going to go through this. They talk about the history. They talk about, this is the new logo. And so I just want to bring attention to you guys that this was the original logo. So again, take it for what it's worth. This is the old logo. This is the new logo. And you can see that the NMRA, when it comes to divisions and regions, was inspired by this, because you see this is how the Girl Scouts do it, of their regional perspective. So that's where that was influenced. So again, they talk about the Girl Scouts, and again, I'm not gonna go too much into this. It's a case study used to help with the NMRA rebrand. So they also use SEMA, which is a Specialty Equipment Market Association. This is the organization that kind of that helps standardizes, I guess, special equipment when it comes to vehicles. And the big conference is in Las Vegas, Nevada. So again, this was actually a really interesting read. Highly encourage you guys to actually look through it. So the next thing, let's so that was SEMA. The next case study, which I'll get to here in a second, Dungeons and Dragons. D&D was used in a case study for the NMRA rebrand, for the mission, for the vision, and so forth. I used to like D&D. I didn't have a group to really be with when it comes to D&D. I'll let you guys read it. There's a lot of interesting testimonials when it comes to this particular section of D&D. And you can kind of see the evolution of D&D, of where it came from and where it's going. They show kind of the modern day pictures of D&D. And so here's an interesting quote. The current D&D edition hits a sweet spot. It's complex enough to sustain long-sustaining players, but approachable enough to draw in new people. So again, I highly encourage you guys to read through the D&D section. I am a D&D gamer nerd. This was a very interesting read. Very interesting read. So you can see where D&D came from, kind of where they're going, and they show the websites of it. Again, you can see the modern day characters there. There's the, again, more modern day D&D captured in this document. Critical Role was used as a reference. And then finally, they go into the stamps. I didn't realize there was an agency for stamps, but there you go. American, I'm not the APS. I'm just going to say it that way. So, yeah, that was the last case study for the document that they go through. And so overall, a very, very interesting read. These two documents is a must read for you guys. Again, I cannot emphasize how important this is. This is the first time in our industry we have seen anything like this. And so if you really care, I'm not saying that you guys care. A lot of you, again, it is a sandbox hobby that we shape our world that we want when it comes to model railroading. If you want to see where things are going as far as from a corporate business perspective, especially when it comes to the NMRA, if you're on edge of renewing the NMRA membership, take a look at these two documents. It clearly shows where the NMRA is going in the future. But with that, guys, I think I'm going to do another video on this topic. I want to capture the spirit of model railroading. Does this rebrand of the NMRA really capture that? Well, I think in my next video, if I do it, I'm still kind of debating if I'm going to do it. Does it capture that spirit of model railroading? I think that's a really good topic to dive into. But with that, guys, if you made it through this entire video, looks like it was 31 minutes long. So I apologize for the length of it, but there's just so much good information to actually comb through and actually read the details of it. But with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video.